So on this one question, I want to show all the details I can. And you will have this question on Quizizz, all right? And it's going to ask you to plot 5 points. It's going to say plot 5 points. Plot 5 points. So of the graph of this equation. So how do you begin graphing this quadratic equation? Well, you start with the formula, right? You want to find the vertex. The vertex is a coordinate. It's an x value and a y value. It's a location on this xy plane. That's the most important point. It's either the highest point or the lowest point, depending on if your parabola opens up or down. We already know the a value is negative, which means it opens down, okay? So let's find the vertex using the vertex formula. X equals negative b over 2 times a. And when you use the formula, please rewrite the formula, but with parentheses instead of the b and the a. Notice that I put negative parenthesis instead of b, and instead of 2 times a, I put 2 times parenthesis. That way, when you identify your b value and your a value, it'll be really easy to plug in. Obviously, c is not in the formula, so we're not going to worry about c. But right now, we're plugging in the b value of negative 4. And please make sure that you include that negative in front of the 4 when you plug it into your parenthesis. So if you do make the parenthesis and then plug in your value, it'll save you from making mistakes. You will see that there's a minus, which will change to a plus in a little bit. The a value happens to be negative 1/2. So that's what we're plugging in into the bottom parenthesis, the negative 1/2. Now, you could, on a calculator, go 2 times negative 1/2, and that will give you a negative 1. So far, in the denominator, we have a negative 1, and up on top, the minus changes to a plus. So you have a positive 4 over a negative 1, which means that our answer is negative 4. Now, what is this answer? This answer is the answer to the value of x. The formula said x equals negative b over 2a. It gives us the x value. X equals what? It equals negative 4. So the x value of the vertex is negative 4. Now, whenever you have an x value to any equation and you want the y value, all you have to do is take that x value and plug it into wherever you see x's. So I'm going to rewrite this quadratic trinomial equation, but with parentheses instead of x's, so I could plug in the actual x value of negative 4. So here goes. I want to just read this, and instead of x's, I'm putting parentheses. Y equals negative 1/2 x squared minus 4x minus 7. And in those parentheses, instead of x's, we're plugging in the actual x value, that blue, negative 4. We're plugging them right in. Now, you could type all of this in exactly the way it is into a calculator, and it should give you the final answer to what y is. But if you don't want to use you don't want to type in everything into the calculator, then let's just work this out together right now. You're going to begin with the exponents. Negative 4 times itself, that is a positive 16. But then you have to multiply it by the negative 1/2 that's right in front of the 16. Negative 1/2 of 16, bless you, is negative 8. So we have a negative 8. And then we could multiply negative 4 times negative 4. That'll give us a positive 16. And we could bring down that minus 7 at the very end. Now it's just a question of adding and subtracting. And we could go from left to right there. So negative 8 plus 16, that's positive 8. Bring down the minus 7. 8 take away 7, that is the answer 1. And what is that answer 1? It's the answer to the y value. Y equals all of this stuff. So y equals 1. Now, what do I mean by y equals 1? I'm talking about the y value of the vertex. You see, we have the x value of the vertex. Let me label it. And now we have the y value of the vertex. We could plug it right in there. Y is equal to 1. So there's our most important point, the location, negative 4, 1. So on the XY plane, on Quizizz, you're going to, On Quizizz, you're going to move your cursor. Man, it's not working. Move your cursor over the point or to the location negative 4, 1. Negative 4, positive 1, and you're going to put a dot right there. And then from that dot, you know that there's an axis of symmetry, and you need more points. So one option to get more points is to do an input-output table, which I don't really recommend. What I recommend is using your pattern that I asked you to memorize, 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9. Keep in mind that this pattern is when the A value is 1, and obviously the A value is -½ So what we're going to have to do is modify the outputs of the pattern by multiplying by that new A value of -½ Keep in mind that the original pattern, the 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9, the left column are the inputs, the right column are the outputs, and we need to modify the outputs, the 1, the 4, and the 9, we need to modify that according to the new A value of -½ So if I multiply the output by -½ and I multiply that output by -½ and I multiply the 9 by -½ what will we get? We are going to get -½ or you could use it as a decimal, -0.5. And then the next one, 4 times -½ If you do that with the calculator, 4 times -½ is -2. And the last one, that would be -4.5. Okay. Anyway, so your new modified pattern is 1 over, instead of going 1 over 1 up from the vertex, like if the A value were 1, you would go 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9. You'd go 1 over 1 up, 2 over 4 up, 3 over 9 up. But the new modified pattern, it's 1 over and halfway down. Okay, now that presents a problem on quizzes because when you go 1 over, actually let me get a coordinate here. When you go 1 over and then try to go halfway down, it's not going to let you. It's going to go to a complete unit, so it's not going to let you go halfway. So obviously 1 over and halfway down didn't help you. So you're going to go back to the vertex and go 2 over -2 down. You'll be able to do that on quizzes. So go 2 over, 1, 2, and 1, 2 down. Okay? You put a dot right there. And of course, there's an axis of symmetry right through the vertex that will allow you to map it over to the other side of the axis of symmetry. So this dot gets 2 units over this way, and you'll have a dot right there. So there's your parabola, and normally that would be good enough. However, on this particular question, it does say plot 5 points, and so far we only have 1, 2, 3. So we need more. So you're probably thinking, okay, I want to go back to the vertex and do the last part of the pattern, 3 over and -4.5 down, right? So if you do go 3 over, 1, 2, 3, and then -4.5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then halfway, it's not going to let you stop at that halfway point. Now, that is, if you were doing it on paper, it would be a point right there. But when you try to get one of these dots and go 3 over and then 4.5 down, it's not going to let you go to that halfway point, okay? So we can't use that part of the pattern on quizzes. If you were graphing on paper, then yeah, you could put that dot, connect your dots, map it over to the other side, connect your dots, and you're done. But on quizzes, we need another clean point. So this is where it requires you to think a little bit more. We know how to find the y-intercept of any quadratic equation. It's very simple. To find the y-intercept, we must set x equal to 0 and solve. So you have a coordinate for the y-intercept. The x value is 0. What is the y value? And it's super easy to do when you have a quadratic trinomial equation. You take that 0 and you plug them in right here and right there. 0 squared is 0. 0 times anything is 0. 4 times 0 is 0. 0 take away 0 is 0. So you have 0 take away 7. The c value is going to be what comes out when you set x equal to 0. So the c value is -7. And we just found the y-intercept. The y-intercept is 0, -7. I hope that makes sense. So we know that this parabola that's opening down is going to cross the y-axis at -7. So you could take your final point and put it at 0, -7, which would be right there. And then you could map that final point to the other side of the axis of symmetry. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 units away. 1, 2, 3, 4 units away. And that is your final parabola. If you submit that, that'll give you full credit on this question. Okay. If you were drawing it on paper, it would just be the parabola opening down like that. Like I said, on paper, it's a little easier because you could actually use the pattern 1 over and only halfway down. You see, 1 over, only halfway down, you could put a dot right there. and that's where your parabola is at. But you can't do that on Quizizz. So we went to the next nice point, 2 over 2 down, 2 over 2 down, and so on and so on. I might as well throw this in there right now. Since we already talked about finding the vertex, that might be a question just on its own. I may ask you to just find the y-intercept just on its own. I may ask you about the pattern. What else could I ask you? I could ask you for the domain and range. I apologize. So the domain are your x values. And this is your x-axis. So does this parabola exist at the x value of 10? You might think that, oh no, it doesn't exist at 10, but it does. Because you see, even though it goes down, it continues to go down and to the right forever. It'll eventually get to the x value of 10. Okay? So the domain to any parabola is x equals all real numbers. Let me repeat that. The domain of any parabola, doesn't matter if it opens up, if it opens down, if it's really wide, if it's really narrow, the domain of any parabola is going to be x equals all real numbers. Now the range, if you already have the graph, the range is pretty easy because the range are your y values. So the range, obviously this parabola in terms of the y-axis, here's the y value of 10, here's a y value of 8, here's a y value of 7, 6, 5, 4. Where does the parabola start existing on the y's? It does not exist at the level 10. It doesn't even exist at the level 4. Where does it start existing? At 1 and below. At 1 and below. So how do you say at 1 and below on the y? You're talking about y is less than or equal to 1. So that's the range right there. What else could I ask you? I could also ask you for the axis of symmetry equation, and that would be the green dotted line that passes right through the vertex, which would be, to get a green vertical, or to get a vertical line, you have to say x equals, so you have to type in x equals if I ask for the axis of symmetry, and that will be x equals simply the x value of your vertex, which happens to be -4 in this case. You know what, I want to go back to range, because it was really easy to see that it exists here at the y value of 1 and below. But there will be some questions where you don't have the graph. I just give you the original equation and I ask you for the range. Well, with the original equation, if I ask you for the range, again, find the vertex. And remember, the vertex is either the highest or lowest point. And because the a value is negative, you should be able to conclude that it opens down without even seeing it. You know it opens down because it's negative. And you know that makes this the highest y value. So that 1 on the vertex is the highest y value, which means that the range will be y is less than or equal to that 1, the y value of the vertex. Any questions? No? Okay.